Xanana is a poet, he's a writer, he writes incredibly beautifully, he's a great speaker. Xanana, with extraordinary audacity that illustrate Xanana's leadership qualities.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, to officially open this event, it is my distinct honor to invite His Excellency the President of the Republic, José Ramos-Horta, to deliver the opening address. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency with a warm round of applause.
Today, I probably would like to share with you some points that illustrate Xanana's leadership qualities. But before that, when Fretilin had been literally decimated, he set out to reorganize Fretilin. When Valentil had been decimated, he set out to reorganize Valentil. He sent out his own people to sound out, and he himself sound out the people. Do we want to continue? And everybody said, yes, we want to continue. So reorganize Fretilin, reorganize Valentil. It had to be a person with extraordinary willpower. A weak person, you do, but our people told him, no, continue. So he set out to reorganize, hidden, protected somewhere in Los Palos area for 1 month. And he himself had no real military experience, although he served a bit in the Portuguese conscripted army. And in a backpack that he had, everybody else carried as much food as you can, he carried books, including books that someone had given to him from the Portuguese military, written about insurgencies, about counterinsurgency, which the Portuguese had in relation to the wars in in Guinea-Bissau, Angola, Mozambique. Xanana, with extraordinary audacity, wisdom maybe, or imprudence. So you can think all of this when, and he ordered Valentil into cantonment. I never heard of a cantonment in the many conflict situations that I studied, a unilateral cantonment. I said, well, you have 2, 3, 4 parties in a conflict, well, everybody in the cantonment. Even the so-called militias who are not required to canton. He just ordered Valentil to canton. Can anyone understand that? Myself, I said, God, that's against Xanana, with some crazy idea. And then violence was happening upon the people. I was in New York in an apartment of a friend. They were away, Shep and Leona. And from there, I was on the phone with Mambot Xanana. And Mambot Xanana told me over the phone. He was totally stressed out. He said, they are going to kill each other. They are going to kill, vão se matar todos. Why? Taul Mataruak in the cantonment told Xanana, if the UN does not intervene in the next 2 days, we are going out of the cantonment. And I didn't know what to do. I said, Mambot, let me try to speak to Taul. I had never talked with Taul before. And silly me, I called a friend in the White House, Eric Schwartz. He was in a national security, an old friend. And I said, Eric, can you help me? get the Pentagon, someone to get me radio communication so I can talk to Taul Mataruak, blah, blah, blah. And he said, Jose, we have zero communication with anyone. But I explained to him, but then he said, Jose, your credibility, mean the Falentil, Timorese credibility, is that you are not involved in the violence. If you break out of the cantonment, it's the end. That's what Eric Schwartz told me. And then I finally found, okay, and I know who I'm supposed to call. I called Padre Filomeno Jacob, with whom I was in touch almost hourly. He was in Delhi. Padre, I need to talk to Taul Mataruak. He said, give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, I called Taul. Managed. Taul was in Wemori, and there was a satellite phone. I managed to communicate with him. I said, please don't leave the cantonment, etc., etc. I don't want to tell the whole conversation between Mount Xanana and Taul, because Mount Xanana told me there was one Portuguese word that Taul pronounced at that time. In Portuguese, it begins with the letter M, referring to the security council, and which is total. I would probably have said worse words, but so anyway, they didn't leave the cantonment, but can you imagine, an extraordinary decision, and that's why we didn't slide into a civil war, complete civil war. It would be a total catastrophe. Then his other, the reconciliation process. This is a man who spent 17 years in the mountains, who survived like Larry and all others that followed. And you don't know when your next food, when if you're going to be alive in the next hour or so. And he spent 7-8 years in Sipinang, and turned Sipinang into a political forum. I remember Foreign Minister Ali Alatas complained. He said, people arriving, foreign dignitaries arriving in Jakarta, the first thing they ask is to see Xanana. And, on occasionally, I would send money to Mount Xanana through different sources. One time I sent him money. I said, Mambot, people who gave me money, they didn't ask any accountability or whatever. But if you can send me a letter about it, I would appreciate. And so he sent me a letter 3 months later. God, I think today our Minister of Finance, our different ministries should have this kind of accountability system. And the money I sent him, he then distributed here back to him. And then there was an item there, pagamento dos salários de 12 guardas de prisão. Payment for 12 prison guards in Sipinang. So he had 12 prison guards who was on his payroll. But then the situation was getting a bit too scandalous in Sipinang. It broke out in the media, and the media said, even Xanana has a phone, a mobile phone. Sipinang is so corrupt that Xanana has a phone. And so then they reorganized the whole Sipinang secure prison system. And then Xanana wrote to me, agora tenho que arranjar outros. Now I have to get new stuff. And he was extremely popular with. So then I heard, long before that, I heard Mandela was going to Indonesia. I immediately organized myself to go to South Africa to meet Mandela. But back then, I was just a small person like most of us. And our ANC comrades promised to organize meetings. I arrived there with few colleagues, nothing had been organized. Then they pretended to have meetings for me, drafting some people from one floor, another to meet. I said, no, I want to meet Mandela. Luckily, I met one South African who is very popular, Robert McBride. He escaped a death sentence by hanging for his participation in a major military strike on the South African Air Force Club. But when Mandela came out of prison, ordered his immediate release, he escaped death, the execution. We became friends, and I kept telling. So the people in South Africa kept telling me, the press is very busy, very busy. I said, no problem, I wait. I can wait. Though they were getting impatient with me because I refused to leave until I saw Mandela. Finally, after 10 days or 2 weeks, Mandela's office called and said, the president ready to see you. We rushed to Johannesburg, I was 2 hours away, and taken right away to Mandela's residence, to the first floor, to his bedroom. Mandela was in bed. He looked at me, smiled broadly, and said, you were the one who said you wouldn't leave until you see me. So here I am. Why was he in bed? He left hospital that day. He had been in hospital on a knee surgery. And he said, I didn't want you to wait much longer. You must have a lot of things to do for your people. We chatted for 1 hour. Please, Comrade President, I know you went to Indonesia. Please ask President Suharto to allow you to see our leader, Xanana. That's all. And I can tell you, and then some little details, very mundane, but on the bedside, back then there were rumors about Mandela dating Graça Machel in the media, but it was not yet official. And then I saw on the bedside a photo of Graça Machel. When I came out, when the meeting finished, I told Robert McBride. Instead of telling him more important things, I gossip like many people. And I said, listen, it is official. I saw Graça Machel's photo. Anyway, Mandela went to Jakarta. Then when he returned, his office called me. And then Mandela on the phone and said, when can you come to South Africa again? I said, President, whenever you tell me, I come. Tonight, he said, tonight. I said, President, I don't have money, I don't have a ticket. I have to organize. Go to the airport, ticket is there waiting for you. So I arrived back in South Africa. He said, met Xanana, your leader, he's a great leader. And so, so what happened? Mandela went to Jakarta, talked to Suharto, and they went get Xanana out of Sipinang to Istana Merdeka, the guest house, to have dinner with Mandela. So Xanana had dinner with Mandela, probably the only prisoner in the whole world, that had dinner with Mandela. Yeah. And upon our independence, Xanana always maintained this extraordinary relationship with Indonesia. He might not remember, but once he said, I learned to love the Indonesian people in Sipinang. So upon independence, with his extraordinary popularity, authority, more than 93% approval rate in the first opinion poll done in this country by IRI, he said, reconciliation will move forward. Reconciliation with Timorese, among Timorese family, and with Indonesia. And Excellencies, I'm familiar with so many conflicts in the world. In Bosnia, I went to Bosnia way back in 97 or 98, before Timor independence, invited by the OSCE to talk about reconciliation. When I walked into the room, I thought I was in the wrong place. Caused so much hostility. And in many other situations that you're familiar. It was thanks to Rala Xanana, with his incredible authority, his courage, that this country lived on after 99 in peace, in tranquility. First, the reconciliation among Timorese, because the struggle, the history is not black and white. We too, Timorese, we did a lot of harm to each other. Today, 25 years later, many Timorese who still come to talk to me. A few months ago, those who are called traitors and still have the label traitor. When are we going to be so? So it was. So the first step is healing the wounds among the Timorese themselves. And Indonesia responded with great statesmanship. Instead of feeling wounded, and maybe internally, but they show they are greater than history and accepted the hand of friendship extended to them by Xanana. So we have this marvelous relationship, people to people and government to government. Because as you know, in many international situations, governments may be able to negotiate agreements. You end a conflict. And the agreement is only between the governments. But you are not able to heal the wounds of the people. One thing is a political solution, an agreement to end a conflict. Another is healing the wounds. That is a whole different matter. But Xanana managed that. And so this is my remark about the man. When I attempted to write the preface in the Portuguese edition, I was in trepidation. My Portuguese is not as good as Xanana's. He is a poet. The only time ever I wrote a poem, the poem was dedicated to my girlfriend. She dumped me right away because I used an expression that meant exactly the opposite in the poem. And ever since, I gave up writing, trying to do poetry. Xanana is a poet, he's a writer, he writes incredibly beautifully, he's a great speaker. As I said earlier in my remarks, often I wouldn't understand. We all knew, we all know, we all read about the UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Medium line, we all know that. One thing is you understand the law, you're right. Another is trying to get the law implemented to your advantage, to your side. And Xanana obsessively began to want to challenge the Timor Sea Treaty, demanding negotiations on a permanent maritime boundary based on UNCLOS. I thought to myself, like I thought in 87 when you disbanded, and not only he quit threatening, but he turned Valentil into a national army, not an army of a party. In all other national liberation movements, the movement leading the struggle, the party leading the struggle, is the one leading also the armed forces. The armed forces is loyal, account to the party. In the midst of the struggle, long before anyone dreaming about Timor independence, he turn volunteer international army outside of Vredlingen. That again was, I thought myself, God, this is a bit crazy. And when he is obsessed with the maritime boundary, I said, oh God, are we going to fight Australia? How much resources? Yeah, we are right, obviously, but sometimes, you just have to accept the reality, try to negotiate the best you can. Well, 18 April 2017, the treaty was signed in New York, 18 April, I think, in New York by Pereira on behalf of Timor-Leste state, witnessed by the Secretary General. An extraordinary success, an extraordinary act in Xanana's long career. I end here, although I could spend more about the man that I observe over the years. And often I wouldn't agree. I said, no, I cannot agree with it. What he's saying, he's doing is totally not realistic. And so later, like now, when I don't agree with some of his policies, I think, it's going to be maybe like before. You don't agree, and it turned out to be right. So now I hesitate more. So when he talks, I always agree. Thank you.